lot of people believe that you just live happily ever after, and that just is a myth.
People like ourselves, older, are hiding in nursing homes or whatever because they are scared to death.
It's incredibly common to go back into the closet again.
You just know when they don't want you there.
We've heard about homemakers going in, taking out a Bible and having the elder pray and asking for forgiveness.
And to be cured. It's not too late for you to be cured of this. They go back in the closet. She might mistreat me or abuse me.
They're so afraid of it, they are resisting any kind of medical attention.
That person was in their mid-20s during the McCarthy era.
The closet was the norm.
They could lose their job, they could lose, families.
We were sick.
Just
we were
sick
We were
people.
considered sick.
People were involuntarily hospitalized in psychiatric facilities.
Even electroshock.
The degradation of these people is so complete that their sex satisfaction comes only in being tortured themselves.
I was en route to the nut farm.
So there's a real distrust of mainstream institutions.
I would never put myself in danger.
Time well spent. He became much more fearful of people knowing that he was gay.
You're not leaving now, are you?
Not right now.
LGBT elders are more likely than the general population to age alone because many gay elders never had children, have not had great relationships with their families of origin. There would be a higher degree of sort of alienation and isolation.
My family was the reason I existed, and I lost them all. If they ever choose to catch up before I die, I welcome them.
LGBT aging issues are an epidemic.
There's a small and growing group of us.
We're trying to go into the existing network so they become more inclusive. One of the most common lines we get is like, we don't have any gay elders here.
If I wasn't the only person responsible for Alexander, I would have ended my life.
This is our life.
Good to see ya! Hi! We'll be there in a few years.
I'll build a stairway to paradise
With a new step
every day.
We have a whole generation of people who don't know who we are. That's really sad, because you're missing out on a lot. We know a lot. We did a lot for you. You wouldn't be here if it weren't for us.
Look at how scrawny they are. Too bad I don't have an open casket.
Well, there'll be no open casket. There won't be anything, right?
If we are saying come out and be filled with pride, it's our responsibility to make sure that continues right through their last day.
Ladies and gentlemen, Stu Maddux. Mad Stu Productions. I'm not, is this your third film? Third film? Okay, he's made 3 films, and they've all been LGBT elder related or something? Okay, great. Well, I'm going to give this mic to you and go at it.
So I'll just ask if there's any questions right off the bat. Anybody have anything? Let me just give you a little production update then. This film has been out for about 8 months. We've been blessed to be able to screen in about 40 different places. And the budget for this film was about $250,000. About half of that went into making the film. Now the other half is being raised to make sure the film sees the light of day. And there's so many costs associated with that. The tape that is played is $600 in some cases to dub, and there's 10 different versions for different screening formats around the world. And another good example is the scene where Sherry is going up the stairs in the mechanical device. If we go to DVD with this, which we hope to do later this year, that may actually have to come out of the film unless we raise enough money to pay for the rights for her to sing that George Gershwin tune, Stairway to Paradise. We have a very limited license to be able to do that right now at film festivals, but we certainly can't sell products based on that song. So those kinds of things really make me feel like I'm at the edge of a cliff a lot of times, holding one of those expensive tapes in my hand. And I don't know about you, but I look at on the other side of this chasm, and I really can see a million people that could be helped by this film. I mean, it really is something that can change things for people out there. I believe that in my heart. And I see their faces at night, you know, I mean, they're out there waiting to be helped. Down below, I see a dozen films that are at least as good as this one, if not better. Some you've probably seen at this festival before, and you thought you were going to hear about them later on at, you know, the Golden Globes or something. What happened to them? They didn't make it across this chasm of marketing the film. It's not a sexy way to spend your money going out and making postcards and things like that, but this is how, nobody swoops in and says, I'm Sony Entertainment and I'm going to pay for this project to get out there and be seen by everybody who needs to see it. That's me doing a grassroots effort, going around with the blessing of like film festivals that are good like this one, showing good stuff and asking for your help to get involved. Check out our website. The name of the film is Gen Silent and the website is gensilent.com. Please tell people about it. If you know of another group that should be screening this, let them know about it. There's a trailer for this film at gensilent.com. So that's where we are with this. We're at a very important part. Any questions? Yes.
Film, thank you so much. What have you learned about local organizations? I see Boston, you know, and all of the services that they have. How can other cities duplicate those services?
That's an excellent question. And usually what it is a conversation like this that gets started, oftentimes after a screening like this, and it's an aging organization teaming up with an LGBT organization in a community to start the, like, what do we do? We have this baby boomer generation that is getting ready to, you know, fill up and fill up the capacity of, you know, aging facilities out there. And we also have a generation that isn't going to sit back and be quiet as much as, and they aren't going to be silent as much as some of the people that you saw in this film. And they're going to expect aging organizations and their advocates out there, their LGBT advocates, to be out there making sure their nursing facilities are safe, their residential living is safe, whatever. Not just safe, but affirming, welcoming, fun, you know? Isn't that what we all want? Yeah. Yes?
What advice do you offer to other LGBT?
I guess there's a microphone, if you could repeat.
What advice do you offer to GLBT filmmakers out there who are looking at entering the craft and how they're going to go about producing their projects? Because I'm assuming that you didn't get a lot of, you know, backing from deep pockets. Was this a labor of love? Did you finance it yourself? Did you get funding? Well,
I self-funded this to the point where we were able to have enough footage to go out and fundraise with. So we made a trailer. This was really one of the, I will say this was a smart move. This worked out well, that we made a trailer we could go out and say, look what we've got. Look what a great story this is. We were still shooting and things like that when we started fundraising. So I had to seed it, you know, with my own money to that point. I'm not sure I would recommend that part of it. That was not the smartest part. There are grants available and things like that, especially if you're doing social change documentary. That's an advantage I have over a lot of colleagues where I can say, look at this great cause. You should grant me some money. You should. So I would say that if you're thinking about doing, you know, something, if you can tie it into a cause, or even if it's fiction, you know, if it relates a message that is important for people to hear out there, that's great. I think the other thing is that it has to be a cause that you feel really strongly about. You can't, when the chips are down and you've been up editing or doing whatever and dealing with people who, you know, are making your life hard, and it's 3 a.m., sometimes, and the checkbook is empty, sometimes all you've got is, I'm doing a really good thing. I know this is the right thing to do. So it has to be something close to your heart as well. Yes?
I said, why was it close to your heart? What was your motivation?
You know, I wish it was something really inspiring. I had a great answer for that. Really, it's been a process for me. It's like me going through my own aging a little bit. I'm 45, but I did a film about 5 years ago about two men who have been together their entire lives. It's called Bob and Jack's 52-Year Adventure. And following these guys, I learned a couple of things. That the oppression that they have gone through early on in their lives, as you saw in this film, they are still having to feel the effects of now. They're still having to deal with what they went through. And I also learned that it's affecting me, people my age, and all of us. Because the reason I wanted to do that film was because I couldn't find any examples out there of couples gay men who had been together for a lifetime. It wasn't that they weren't out there, it's that they were invisible. And there was this huge intergenerational disconnect. It's in the mainstream too, but it's really profound for us folks who really need examples, to know that we're not alone out there, to know that somebody else has been through this before. I had to make a film to find it. So the oppression then is still affecting all of us now, and I wanted to look into that a little bit more. Yes, I'd like to acknowledge my parents in the audience.
Thanks a lot. You mentioned at the outset about the cost of formatting and so on. Are you finding the interest in this topic, the aging issues of LGBT? I always have trouble getting the letters in the
People
right
of
order.
letter, Dad. You can say, a lot of people call it people of letter, right? I've heard that phrase.
People of letters? Okay, that's
People
good.
of letter. And you're an A, by the way, now.
Oh, is that
you're
right?
You're an ally.
Aha, okay. Are you finding the interest in this topic localized to the United States, or are you finding it more of a global kind of thing that's now becoming into focus in people's mind?
That's a good question, because you know, you look at our Google Analytics on our website, and it's predominantly the United States, but also Australia has a huge interest in this film, and it seems to be way ahead of the curve on LGBT aging issues. And the UK, and we had a really great opportunity to screen this film in Belfast, Northern Ireland, where this topic had never even been discussed publicly before. But there are people who want to get it on the radar. So we're not seeing as much in Latin American countries yet, but I mean, this is an English language film, so, you know, it doesn't mean anything. And really interestingly is Asian communities too. I don't know, it's fun to speculate about why that culturally might be, or who knows, maybe the time zones are different, or, you know, they like watching trailers online, I don't know. But, so yeah, but mostly in the United States.
You getting your exercise?
Who's this guy back here who's running back and forth?
Yeah. His name is Mike.
The volunteers here are something else, by the way.
Is the film available for purchase as an educational tool for caregivers?
You know, that's what's really exciting to me about this is, you know, my career is in television, and I've done television network stuff and things like that. That's all great, and we'd like to get this on a television network and seen by the world. But the exciting thing for me is exactly what you said. I don't think anything will make the light go on over people's heads more than this film, and getting it in front of the people who need to see it most is our #1 goal at this point. The paid caregivers, the policymakers, the lawmakers out there. So yes, we are trying to we're rolling out the first educational version of this in the spring, and we hope to debut it at the American Society on Aging in San Francisco. Please come out and visit. I'll give you a tour of wine country out there. No, but it's going to be an ongoing process where we take different, that has to be a recut of the film that takes it down to about 30 minutes though, so you can see our challenge. But yeah. Look for that in April, and then the DVD will be available for all of us to buy, hopefully at the end of the year.
I had a question. How long was it in a period of time from when you started filming to when you ended? And then can you talk about what I assume would be extremely difficult watching someone in their last few days of their life?
Yeah. Well, this was a fairly quick film. It took 2 years to make. We actually shot about a year. And I wanted to make it seasonal I don't know if that really came out in the film or not, but I wanted to make it from like fall to spring and so on, renewal and all that imagery to kind of help things out. The hardest part about making this film by far was evolving into a caregiver for Chris Ann. It turned out I was the logical person because I was there filming all the time. I wasn't the only one. You saw that caregiving team. I just had my name on the list too, but it was not fun, but it was an honor to be there for that. The hardest part about this film was having to go back and look at that 70 hours of footage back home and relive those days, the good days and the bad days, over again. And I do know that she would be very, very proud of today. So I'll dedicate this screening to Chris Ann. We have another one today in Ontario going on about the same time right now. So she would be very proud. This is what she wanted. So that was the hardest part.
This is back to the previous question.
Who are you?
Oh, I'm your mom.
Oh, okay.
Back to the previous question about when these would be available. Now, are your parents going to have to buy one?
How many do you want?
One would be fine.
That's great. I would love to I'll give you one, of course. Where everybody is now, yeah, that you asked that before. So here's the really cool thing. Lawrence and Irving, the gentleman that he met, are still together. They have decided to move to Florida and are doing so next week. Lois and Sherry are still in their home. They're doing fine. Melvin is just more and more out there every week. He's the gentleman who was didn't talk about his partner for 39 years. He marches in the Gay Pride Parade now and is a big LGBT advocate for aging and is on the board of the organization that was doing all the training now. Chris Ann's family are still not really in the picture. They've been on radio silence pretty much ever since, and we've tried to reach out to the son, wanted him to be involved in this process as much as possible, but he just preferred not to be. I believe he's in the National Guard or Reserve, and I think he may be serving overseas right now. So he moved, which probably was I think he became a kind of a friend in this process. And I think it'd be safe for me to say that it was a good thing for him to kind of get out of town for a while. Yeah. And I am working on curriculums for this film.
Hi, I was wondering, for you to have to see everything that happened, how did you react since you're behind the camera and you can't really show emotion?
Yeah, right.
You can't cry for them in front of them. You have to keep a straight face and just film. How was that? And
when you're working, my background is in news too, so you kind of learn to shut it off and feel later, which is either a good thing or bad thing. I don't know what, but you just don't think about it until the end of the day. So, and truly, you're thinking, wow, the son has just showed up in the hospital room. This is a great moment. I need to capture it on camera. The reality is the feeling that you're having. This is really a powerful thing. How do I get this? So you're not going, you schmuck, why weren't you here for the last 2 years? And the other thing is, too, there's always at least two sides to every story. you can tell there's at least two sides in that story. It's more like a soccer ball, you know, nothing is black and white. It's like all the black and white patches all around a soccer ball. There's that many sides to it, and it's usually like the truth is somewhere in the mud on the soccer ball. It's very gray, so I try not to make any, it was hard not to make any judgments on that one, but you know, the more you learn about it, the more you learn how complicated that relationship was. Yes, sir. Mike with the mic.
All of the subjects in your film are of a fairly high educational level, as well as a social economic level. Is anyone looking to see what happens to gay and lesbians and bisexuals and transgender people who are not of that level?
That's a very good observation. I agree with you. There's a reason that we did that. Let me answer the last part of your question first. There are a lot of people looking at lower income folks in all categories there. And not only that, the folks who are so isolated, not just economically, but geographically, that they'll never reach out for help. And that is a comment I get a lot from social workers, is what about the people who can't afford any of this? The reason we did that was particularly for the transgender storyline, was to break the stereotype of transgender folks being lower income. Are there any transgender folks in here who would like to identify? Was that on base? Was that?
I think that's appropriate because I think a lot of us are an underserved community, and a lot of times we're economically disadvantaged. And so this still, I think, addresses
more than one issue. You know, you've killed two birds with one stone by, you know, giving coverage to, you know, breaking through the stereotypes, because I think a lot of people do think we live in the streets.
Yeah, and that's exactly, we did not want to like play into people's, we wanted to shake that up a little bit.
And yet you're still making the point that relative affluence is no protection against loneliness and rejection.
If you look at Howard Hughes, does anybody remember him, the billionaire? He died with all these billions and I think 11 different paid caregivers around him, and he died an isolated, horrible death, you know, trying to take care of himself. So there's no, money doesn't, that's the illusion. Money isn't going to cure it, and we're not going to come out and make a duplicate set of care facilities out there just for LGBT people. There will be some that are dedicated to that. It'll be a nice place to be, you know, if you can afford it. But the real solution here is for us to go into all these places and make change from within. We can't duplicate it. And long before we even get to even part of the way there, the existing systems are going to go, oh, there's a great market out here. We're starting to recognize it. We're going to address it. So we need to be on the boards of aging agencies around the country and in our own communities, counties and things like that, and on nonprofit boards that are addressing this issue. Anything else? Well, thank you very much for coming. This has been a great screening. I hope to hear from you again soon.